Welcome everyone. I will get us started. Members of the public are advised that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the live stream recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. I'll start with an acknowledgement of country. Nillumbik Shire Council respectfully acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners of the country on which Nillumbik is located, and we value the significance of the Wurundjeri people's history as essential to the unique character of the Shire. We pay tribute to all First Nations people living in Nillumbik, give respect to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all First Nations people. We respect the enduring strength of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung and acknowledge the ongoing impacts of past trauma and injustices from European invasion, massacres and genocide committed against First Nations people. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people hold a deep and ongoing connection to this place. We value the distinctive place of our First Nations people in both Nillumbik and Australia's identity, from their cultural heritage and care of the land and waterways to their ongoing contributions in many fields, including academia, agriculture, art, economics, law, sport and politics. And I'll now ask Councillor Egan to read the Good Governance Pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. As councillors, we are mindful of our civic responsibilities and obligations. We pledge to take them seriously and to carry them out with diligence and integrity. We know the decisions we take will affect the people and environment of Nillumbik, now and in the future. We undertake, therefore, to make sound and principled decisions of lasting value in a spirit of fairness and for the good of all. We also pledge to serve the needs and well-being of the community and the environment in an open and honest manner and to the best of our abilities.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I'll now introduce Reverend Tim Stringer, who is the pastor of Calvary Lutheran Church, Greensborough and Thomastown since January 2014. Pastor Tim is a member of the General Church Board of the Lutheran Church of Australia and New Zealand and the District Church Council of the Victoria and Tasmania District of the LCANZ. He is also a sessional lecturer in preaching at Australian Lutheran College, North Adelaide and Frontier School of Mission, Port Macquarie. In his spare time, he likes to swim laps at the Diamond Creek outdoor pool and plays ice hockey at Reservoir. So thank you, Reverend Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for your constant presence with us. We ask that you would be with this meeting as it gathers tonight, guide all of the councillors and all who may speak this evening, that they may do this according to your will and the gifts that you have given them. Lord, we see on the agenda tonight that this may be the last meeting begun with prayer. And Lord, with that in mind, I pray that you would continue to guide this council in the future in all that it may do, so that it may serve the wider community, all the diverse community that live here, work here and serve here. Lord, be with all of these people in all that they do and all that they say, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Tim. We'll keep moving. Now we do have one request for a leave of absence from Councillor Stockman, but we may move that to the end of the meeting. I'll just ask for a councillor to move that be deferred.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that we change the order of business to consider apologies in the confidential section of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Duffy. Councillor Egan.
Not much to say really, except that we need to have a little bit more discussion to reach a consensus on this issue. So I think in the interests of Councillor Stockman's privacy, it needs to be confidential.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? Councillor Perkins.
Can I just clarify it's not an apology? Councillor Stockman hasn't requested an apology.
He's requested a leave of absence.
Yep.
Yeah.
Through the chair, the item agenda is apologies, it's not leave of absence, but the consideration of the motion is leave of absence. So
All right, I'll put that to the vote then. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. All right, we do have some presentations. If I can open the right document. So it was fantastic this year, yet again, to see members of our community being recognised for their achievements in the recent King's Birthday Honours List. Tonight, I would like to acknowledge these outstanding citizens and their achievements. So we had one Nillumbik resident who was appointed an Officer of the Order of Australia in the General Division, Professor Julie Ann Considine, for distinguished service to medicine in the field of emergency nursing, to tertiary education and to professional association. We had one Nillumbik resident who was appointed a member of the Order of Australia in the General Division, Marina Pryor, for significant service to musical theatre as a singer and performer. We're also very proud to have two former Nillumbik Senior Citizens of the Year, Miranda Armstrong, who was appointed a member of the Order of Australia in the Military Division, as well as Marlis Dopaida, who was awarded a Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division, both for service to the community through social welfare organisations. And I think we definitely know exactly what they do in our community, and we're very grateful for that. Also ordered a Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division was Dr. Julie Edwards for service to the community through social welfare organisations, Dr. Julie Fitzherbert for service to conservation and the environment, Detective Senior Sergeant Joy Murphy, APM, for service to the community through emergency response organisations, and Natalie Rose for service to the law. So thank you so much to all of those people, and I'd like to commend them all for their dedication, service and achievement of excellence in their respective fields. They embody the Nillumbik ethos of service, diligence, commitment, and above all, serving the broader community.
Can I just make a comment there that they're all female?
Councillor Egan has noted that they're all females. Very well noticed, Councillor Egan. It's good to see. A very, very good list of award recipients. The next item is confirmation of minutes. I'll ask for a mover for the minutes.
Happy to
Councillor
move
Payne.
that, Mayor Ramcharan. Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation that Council confirms the minutes of the Council meeting held on Tuesday 23rd of May 2023 as per Attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Disclosures of conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest, councillors? Wonderful. There are no petitions. We've got a very healthy number of questions from the gallery, so please bear with me. The first question is from Aidan Furmeister, and the question is: could household? Oh, is Aidan in the room? All right. If Aidan isn't here, we will email a response through to him at a later date. The next questions are from Travis Hall. I can see Travis sitting up the back. Hi, Travis. Question 1. I read in today's agenda that Councillor Richard Stockman has requested a leave of absence until the 30th of September 2023. Everyone is entitled to leave here and there. However, it is my understanding that Councillor Stockman has been absent from council affairs since approximately Anzac Day. Given this new request for leave, and knowing that unlike other places, there is no second in charge who can step in to assist, what are Blue Lake Ward residents to do in the absence of their elected councillor? Question 2 from Travis was, who can we go to if we need someone to represent us in the Blue Lake Ward during the further upcoming 3-month period? We also had a similar question from Svetlana Rizik, who I can see in the audience as well, on behalf of Friends of Apollo Parkways. And that question is, who is going to represent Blue Lake residents while Councillor Stockman is on leave? So we've got one response to the 3 questions. And the response is, The Local Government Act provides for the ability of a councillor to apply for leave, and the council must grant any reasonable request for leave. In performing the role of a councillor must consider the diversity of interests and needs of the municipal community. During a time of councillor leave, residents may approach any other councillor to represent themselves or their community. In addition to having responsibilities as a councillor, the mayor has the additional responsibility to represent the council and acts as a spokesperson for council. Council communication channels remain available to all residents, providing for equal access to council services. So in short, absolutely come to customer service, call our customer service number, or feel free to come to any other councillor, and I'm happy to take residents' inquiries as mayor as well. There's a second question from Svetlana. Is Nillumbik Shire Council supportive of Friends of Apollo Parkway's application for the North East Link grant to install the outdoor fitness stations in the recreation space adjacent to Diamond Valley Sports and Fitness Centre? And the response is, Council is happy to provide advice and guidance on grant applications. With regards to the specific application being put forward by Friends of Apollo Parkways, a request will be made that officers make contact with respective members of Friends of Apollo Parkways to understand the grant application and potential next steps. So we will stay in touch. We have a question from Jim Connor, who I can see up the front. Question 1. These are my personal questions and not on behalf of any organisation. The proposed community consultation for 2 Bell Street, Eltham, the approved master plan for the Fabro Fields passive open space allowed for 2.5% of the area to be allocated for the establishment and operation of a community garden. Given the officer report on this proposal by Local Food Connect states the proposed size, scale, layout and governance are substantially different than originally considered. Why is Council suggesting a community consultation process for a proposal where there is a clear lack of details put forward for the community to consider, where perhaps 60 to 75% of valuable passive open space may be lost to what may be a commercial type operation? And the response is, the purpose of the community consultation is to ascertain the community's views on whether an urban farm use on the land described as 2 Bell Street, Eltham is welcomed before considering details pertaining to size, lease arrangements, traffic, etc. In the absence of any recent detailed master planning for the site, this information will assist Council to determine if the use aligns with the community's expectations for the land into the future. Jim's second question. With this proposal by Local Food Connect, will any community volunteers, including Eltham High School students, be able to grow and keep their own produce as envisaged with the approved master plan? And the response is, should the community support the land being used for the purposes of an urban farm or part thereof, further detail pertaining to the operations of a proposed urban farm at the site will be subject of the lease and planning permit application processes. From the information publicly available on Local Food Connect's website, Local Food Connect is a not-for-profit organisation that utilises community volunteers and is seeking to educate the community on an environmentally and socially sustainable food future through partnerships and programs. We have a question from Sue Diet, who I can see sitting up the front as well. And Sue has asked, the absence of publicly available information about the proposal for Fabro's Fields Farm precludes thoughtful community response through any mechanisms such as Participate Nillumbik. When will Council be given sufficient detail to enable a meaningful response by the community to the proposal, such as the size of the land required, the length of lease, and what remediation and by whom will be needed if or when the lease is terminated, the traffic management and parking, the provision of water and sewerage, business plan and consideration of the impact of actions as stated in the brochure on existing community organisations and private businesses in Nillumbik, and which sections of the community will be negatively impacted by this project? And the response is, the purpose of the community consultation is to ascertain the community's views on whether an urban farm use on the land described as 2 Bell Street, Eltham is welcomed before considering details pertaining to size, lease arrangements, traffic, etc. In the absence of any recent detailed master planning for the site, This information will assist Council to determine if the use aligns with the community's expectations for the land into the future. Should the community indicate support for an urban farm on the land, further consultation will be undertaken that will provide such detail during the statutory processes aligned for both the lease and planning permit application processes to assist submissions on those processes. We have a question from Lachlan Rohr. Is Lachlan in the room? Yep, up the back. Recent changes made to parking zones surrounding the Woolworths supermarket in Eltham have made it difficult for employees of the essential workplace to find on-site parking without risking a fine. Why has Council suddenly elected to make this change after some zones haven't had any major changes for at least over 20 years? And when will Council respect the fact that employees of any registered business who serve the community will need to have somewhere to park or may be parking for longer than signed due to them having to attend their workplace? And the response is, in response to concerns raised by the Eltham Chamber of Commerce and Industry pertaining to loading on Arthur Street and blocking of the road, Council introduced late 2022 a loading zone on Arthur Street and rescinded some spaces on the north side of Arthur Street from 8-hour parking to 3-hour parking. This would compensate for the loss of parking as a result of the loading zone. Council is currently in the process of undertaking a detailed parking review around all on-street parking areas. Any changes that have been made in the past were undertaken in consultation and at the request of the Eltham Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Available trader parking is an integral part of an efficiently functioning precinct, and as such, Council has nominated the Circulatory Road car park, accessed via Price, Arthur and Dudley Streets, for utilisation by long-term traders. The Council website contains more information on how to obtain a trader parking permit in Eltham. We have one more question from Margaret Mackenzie, who's sitting up the front. Question 1. I have read on the website Councillor Stockman will be on extended leave until the end of September. Who will be following through on projects in hand as discussed with Councillor Stockman regarding paths linking Snake Park to Passive Park, which was on the initial community facilities upgrade master plan in 2015 and left uncompleted. As well as question 2, some staff at Nillumbik Council were not aware of the community facilities upgrade master plan in 2015. Could I ask if the councillors have read the plan on their website? And so the response to both of those questions is, in performing the role of a councillor must consider the diversity of interests and needs of the municipal community. The council as a whole provides a leadership role in guiding the development of any strategic plans for the area and are responsible for monitoring the implementation of council's delivery program. During a time of councillor leave, residents may approach any other councillor to represent themselves or their community. In addition to having responsibilities as a councillor, the Mayor has the additional responsibility to represent the council and acts as the spokesperson for council. And that is all the questions we have tonight. As I say, a very healthy number. All right, we will keep moving. So the next item is reports of advisory committees. So I will look for a mover. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation that Council notes the minutes of the Advisory Committee meetings reported in Attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is seeking adoption of Council's governance rule meeting procedures. So I will look for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mayor Ramtran. I'd like to move the motion, the recommendation that Council 1 notes that 10 submissions in relation to the draft governance rule meeting procedures were received and that these submissions were considered and submitters were provided with the opportunity to be heard by the Planning and Consultation Committee on the 6th of June 2023. 2, having considered the written and verbal submission endorses the governance rule meeting procedures shown as per Attachment 1. 3, notes that Council's existing governance rule, meeting procedure adopted on the 25th of August 2020, ceases to apply. 4, request that officers write to all respondents to the public engagement to express Council's gratitude for their contribution and to advise them of the Council's resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne.
Yes, so this particular motion is particularly important. We're changing our governance rules, meeting procedures, basically because the emergency procedures during COVID allowing online meetings expired in November 2022. Councils all over the state have been reviewing and establishing their new governance rules. We put these new rules out to the community for their feedback, and changes have been suggested, and changes that make sense. So moving online in different circumstances makes absolute sense, whether that's a pandemic or whether that's because there's a threat to people's safety in a gallery, as we've seen. We need to be able to move online. The ability to allow individual councillors to zoom in remotely to a council meeting is also something that makes sense. As we've known in this particular council, that's made the effective working of council possible. We've removed gender descriptions of roles as per the Gender Equality Act 2020. We now have a neutral word for mayor. It's not Madam Mayor or Mr Mayor, it's just Mayor. We want to note how councillors vote so that people who want to know a particular history of a council or's vote don't have to trawl through YouTube videos to see who puts their hand up. And all in all, we got 10 submissions. It doesn't sound a lot, but anyone who's had to sit and read the rules of how councils should run their meetings, I admire the fact that we even got 10 people. 9 of those people said, why are we still having the prayer? We're going to be hearing a lot of arguments because this is quite a contentious, as it turns out, motion. Some people will say some traditions are worth keeping, but I should note that we don't do council robes, we don't do council chains, we don't have the idea that councils are solely a male occupation. We can't anymore. Some may say that it's not really a prayer, it's wishing well. Well, it's actually called a prayer, and they reference a deity, so it is clearly a prayer. And the argument is that it's inclusive, but in fact, it is divisive because we can't actually appeal to the range of views within the Shire. Around half of those in the census that responded to the census says they have no religion. So while there are religious groups in the community, and we respect that, and this changes nothing effectively, we can't really cater to that entire range of views, and what happens is that council officers end up having to get a very small Christian group of prayer givers, with all respect to Reverend Tim. Now, I will note that Reverend Tim called on a male God, a Heavenly Father and a Lord, and I think this goes against the idea that we have a gendered idea of a deity, whether one exists or not. I fear that this is token at best, that this is seen as an irrelevance to the community, and I really think that the arguments we're about to hear are kind of a small culture war just within the councillors. I don't think this is relevant to the wider community, and on that basis I would like to support the motion as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre?
Thank you, Chair. In addition to what Councillor Payne has mentioned, I'd also like to speak on this, but obviously to also say thank you to Reverend Tim for attending tonight. All councils are required to have governance rules in place, which determine the rules for council meetings, as well as provide guidance on other governance matters. They support council to make merit-based, fair decisions and establish decision-making processes to make sure any person whose rights will be directly affected by a decision of the council is entitled and able to communicate their views and have their interests considered. And that's why we reviewed our governance rules. Council's current governance rules have been in place for all council meetings since 2020. In line with legislative changes requiring rules to be in place to hold online meetings, Council embarked on a process to community engagement as required whenever Council proposes to update its governance rules. Council has heard from our community through written submissions and heard in the chamber at our PCC meeting also. Overall, the community sentiment supported the draft governance rules with the consistent theme as also Councillor Payne mentioned, from community submissions related to the removal of the prayer in the order of business and other more minor changes proposed to wording. The governance rules as presented to Council tonight accurately reflects this feedback. There's been much debate over the years, which has seen around half of Central Victoria's councils and some metro councils move away from the prayer in council meetings, and many other councils moving in the same direction. The Local Government Act 2020 does not require councils to conduct prayers. It does expect that councils will reflect and are accountable to the communities that they are elected to serve. I will consider the feedback from our community and also the purpose and effect in acknowledging religion at our council meetings, in addition to ensure our processes are best practice, contemporary, and supports access, equity and inclusion for all. And for those who might not know, I am actually a Catholic, and so this is not to me about denying religion, it's about equity and inclusion for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I will just keep this brief. In my time as a councillor, I've endeavoured to put the community at the heart of my decisions and my actions. Council's meeting procedures is what we're talking about today. The role of a councillor is to make decisions on behalf of the municipality. The best decisions are made when all councillors can participate. The most important component of change in this meeting procedure, in my opinion, is enabling councillors improved options to attend. In my first year of council, I absolutely pushed myself to be able to attend. There are councillors who undergo personal circumstances of all different types which impact their ability to be physically in the chamber. There are times when the community can't be physically in the chamber, and we understand what's happened with COVID. Meetings went ahead in a remote capacity, but it was an either all in the chamber or all out of the chamber. There are times when councillors need to be able to step aside from meetings in the chamber, whether that's for their health, whether it's for caregiving for their family members. There are a number of reasons that are very worthwhile in being able to not physically be in the chamber, but having a complete mental capacity to make decisions for the community in a remote location. So whilst there's a lot of discussion today about the meeting procedures, in my opinion, the most important component here is being able to have councillors attend the meeting by a remote access. So we've got 3 options now where we can all be in the chamber, we can all be via Zoom, or we can have a hybrid model where there are some councillors in the chamber and councillors away. At the moment, with these meeting procedures, it's proposed that one councillor is able to be away. We don't have the technology that officers are making available. Sorry, misphrasing that. The meeting procedure change is suggesting if there are 2 councillors who request to have the right to attend a meeting remotely, that we convert to a fully online meeting. I'm not going to quibble over people's decisions as to why they should or shouldn't be able to attend a meeting remotely. I accept that councillors would make a good judgment, and in most instances, the best way would be for people to be here in person, as we know that this makes it the easiest way to run a meeting. With the limited amount of time left, I'd just like to say that to me is the most important part of the change. Also, to ensure transparency and engagement, questions from the public are accepted and responded to regardless of whether the questioner is physically in attendance or not. It's a shame that one of the messages wasn't able to be answered today publicly. And the other part here is to enable councillors the democratic right to bring forward a notice of motion to seek a council resolution on a position. That continues, and I think that's great.
Councillor Duffy? Good timing.
I had more to say, sorry, I've run out of time.
That's quite all right. Any other councillors? Councillor Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be speaking against this motion. The only contentious matter in this motion is the prayer, whether council should retain the prayer or, as the motion puts it, to get rid of it. This is my fourth council. There's always been one or two councillors that have come to this place with the express intent of getting rid of the prayer. It's always been a decision of council. It's never got majority support. The concern I have tonight is that with one councillor down, we haven't seen Councillor Stockman, as Travis correctly said, we haven't seen him since around Anzac Day. So we're running with 6 councillors, and, you know, as it is at the moment, it's probably going to be a split decision on this one, where the mayor will get the casting vote, and I fear that the mayor will disregard the express wishes, as I understood them, of Councillor Stockman. Councillor Stockman, right through all the briefings, right through all the work we did throughout this whole process, expressed that he wanted to retain the prayer. So we might well get a decision tonight that does exactly the opposite of that, if the casting vote is used, you know, in a way that I believe is perhaps not right. You know, so 4 councils, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2020. This has come up at every council, at every opportunity. The people that we see who have submitted, there's been those people or people close to them who have made submissions to council trying to get rid of the prayer. We had 9 submissions indicating get rid of the prayer. 7 of those 9 were basically one-liners. There were 2 submitters, you know, and I have to acknowledge Alexander and Michael Dove that put in fairly lengthy submissions. Some of that stuff was, I'm not supposed to name people, of course, I'm sorry about that. Some of those submissions, of course, were not necessarily on point or on topic, because it was cut and paste from other shires, being Burundara, who have been working very hard to get rid of the prayer, even across the state. As a delegate to the MEV State Council, they put a motion up to get rid of the prayer across the state, and 75% of council representatives across the state said that's not appropriate. It is a decision for council. It's for us as a group of 7 to decide whether or not we want to retain the prayer. I thank Reverend Tim for attending tonight. I hope it's not the last time we have a prayer. We have to acknowledge that we do the prayer differently here in Nillumbik. A lot of people from other municipalities might just read out Our Father, and I'm sorry, it's not Our Mother, it is Our Father. They might read that out, or the chair reads that out. What we do is we invite the faith leader to actually come to our dinner, to sit down with councillors, and then to say something, you know, prayer or you know, generally it's something nice, you know, about council, you know, and praying for us. I don't find that offensive. You know, a couple of councillors might find that offensive. I'm sorry that they do, but
Thank you, Councillor Perkins.
I certainly
That
do
is
wish
time.
to talk a bit more when I can.
I'm sure you do. Any other councillors? Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Like Councillor Perkins, I don't think we should be removing the prayer. In my mind, 10 people isn't enough of a reference group in some 67,000 residents of the Shire. The majority of residents wouldn't even know this is being debated tonight, but I'm sure if they did, we'd have a different result. When I mentioned how hypocritical this was in the briefing, I was held down because saying that the prayer was hypocritical. It was actually this council that removed the chains. We had the chains in the last council, because it's this group which has the majority. Just like last council, the tables were turned the other way around. I'm concerned about the casting vote too, Councillor Perkins. You and I are the only 2 councillors that have had to sit through different sort of results with casting votes with mayor, and traditionally it's supposed to be the status quo. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. Councillor Perkins has basically said everything I was going to say, so all I'm going to be doing is repeating it. So I won't be voting for this either.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I will speak briefly before Councillor Payne has his right of reply.
Can I just get a clarification for governance? I intend to move an amendment. Can I do that after the right of reply, or do I need to do it at any time?
It must be before the right of reply.
Okay, so
I'll
jump in.
30 seconds before you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Just to respond to some of the comments on using the casting vote. it is something I never want to have to do while there are only 6 of us, but it will depend how other people vote. And if I am forced to use the casting vote, then it will. I guess it's always a very unpleasant experience for a mayor to have to do that. But if that's what people force me to do, then it will be a challenge. Anyway, I'll allow Councillor Perkins to move his amendment.
Thank you. Could I ask officers to put the amendment on the screen? And the amendment, the changes as shown in the parts highlighted in red. So basically, amend the substantive motion to include shown as attachment 1 with the following amendment. Retain the prayer in the order of business. I request that officers review council processes to allow for multi-faith prayer participation to ensure council remains inclusive and respectful.
Thank
Happy
you,
to
Councillor
second.
Perkins, and seconded Councillor Egan. Councillor Perkins.
Yeah, thank you. Look, so as I was saying, I certainly respect and thank you, Reverend Tim, for attending tonight. It might well be the last time we have a prayer in this chamber until we can turn things around again. What I've been in a fortunate position over 13 years is to get to meet and have dinner with and understand the great work that many faith leaders, many groups of faith do in our community to support our residents. You know, it's not just Nillumbik that does great things in our community. It's the whole community. The churches, you know, there might be some groups that are unrepresented because they're not coming along to say a prayer, but as people have pointed out to me, you know, almost 50% of the population have identified themselves as having faith in the Nillumbik community. Now that's more than normal. That's a lot. We're not another municipality in the state of Victoria. We're Nillumbik. You know, the way we do the prayer is we invite a minister or a leader of the faith group. We generally have discussion over dinner. They tell us what good work they've been doing in the social group or in social work. They come here purely as volunteers, and I just know that I personally have built up a relationship with some of these leaders. You know, in my 13 years on council, it's an absolute honour for me to have them come to this council and say nice things about us. It doesn't often happen, you know. In your time on council, there aren't many people that say nice things about you, and there aren't many people that actually take the time to pray for you, because that's even nicer, you know. So I really respect, whether I am a Catholic, but you know, I would like to think that if I didn't have a particular faith, I wouldn't begrudge a leader of faith saying a prayer for my colleagues, and that's what the leaders of faith do in this place. So I think it is disrespectful to get rid of the prayer. We didn't really particularly target the stakeholder groups, which are the religions. What I'm hoping to do is that we cast the net a little bit wider. I do agree with, particularly part of one submission that suggested that we need to broaden the scope a little bit more in asking faith groups to say a prayer at council meetings. In my time, I can't remember ever seeing a rabbi or someone from the mosque. It has been largely Christian, and I think the Christian faith makes up about 22% of the Shire of Nillumbik in terms of population as per the census. There's another almost 30%. There are other religious groups. So traditionally, I think officers have only really approached the churches or the places of worship actually within Nillumbik. But we know that there are many people in Nillumbik that go outside of Nillumbik, to congregate and to pray and to go to their place of worship. So, it would be good to see someone from the nearest synagogue, someone from the mosque, other more diverse faith groups represented, and when we're having a chat to them. But as I say, I've built up a wonderful relationship with a lot of these leaders. There was no other way I could do it, and I think it's been a really, really good thing for me to understand what's happening in our community more broadly. So not just where I live, it's often been the Greek Orthodox Church or other churches outside of my ward. And yeah, I think it's disrespectful, and it'd be a slap in the face if this council was to get rid of the prayer, particularly on a casting vote, where the mayor knows that the majority of council, if they're all here, would be retaining the prayer, because that's consistently the message through. There are a couple of councillors that right through this process wanted to highlight the issue of the prayer. They didn't get that through. We went out with consultation, not particularly highlighting the prayer. but there's been a bit of an agenda being run here. I'm very uncomfortable with it. I'm not sure what I'll do if we get rid of the prayer. There is an option to put up a rescission motion, myself with another councillor, and we bring this back to the next council meeting. I don't really want to do that because most of the stuff in the governance rule, meeting procedures, there's no contention, there's no problem with. I think we all agree on 99.9% of it. It is this issue of the prayer, and I do think it's worth fighting for. I certainly, and anyone of faith, and I'm not saying that I go to church every week, I don't go to church very often, but I grew up believing in religion. I was often picked on, as we all were. You know, and any Catholic or Christian or people from faith groups, you're often picked on by people that don't understand what it's all about. So I don't think that we need to show disrespect to 50% of our community by ditching the prayer. So I just hope that the majority view of council believes that. I'm sure if we had 7 councillors here, that wouldn't be an issue, and I wouldn't have to raise these matters, but it's not the case.
Councillor Regan.
Yes, I'm going over old ground again, but again, I agree with Councillor Perkins. Unlike him, I'm not a Catholic, I'm an Anglican. And yes, it's not like 10%, it's 50. We've had it. I'm more than happy to back a rescission motion, Councillor Perkins. Like you say, it is the only issue in this particular item. It's a pity they were lumped together. Not much more to say because he's had the floor most of this time, but I'm as passionate. Don't think we should be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'll be supporting you. And most of the people in the gallery know that Councillor Perkins and I don't often agree, but we sure as hell do on this issue.
Thank you, Councillor Regan. Any other councillors? Councillor Payne?
Do I have a right of reply?
You don't, but you can speak for 3 minutes to the amendment if you want.
Okay. Just to recap, tonight is not about how we were raised. I went to the Scots Church as a kid. It's irrelevant. In fact, our upbringing is irrelevant. We're talking not about our past, not about our childhood trauma, but about how we make decisions in the present and in the future. We can't comply with our own policies in being gender neutral. It's not a traditional part of council, and it baffles most present listening to it, and it doesn't improve the working of council. I'll note that Councillor Duffy did not speak in support of the prayer. She spoke about other very, very important issues to do with governance. But so far tonight, I think a minority of councillors have spoken in support of the prayer. They don't deliver the prayer themselves. They would not deliver the prayer themselves. And the prayer givers are asked to attend council, give the prayer, and then just sort of drift off into the evening. It's awkward and strange. So we've asked for more faith groups to be called on. I don't know why suddenly we've got this call on for more groups when in fact we're struggling to find prayer givers for the groups that we have. More and more councillors are removing the prayer. I don't really appreciate Councillor Perkins instructing the Mayor on how to use his vote. That's not your role. And in terms of disrespect, I think it rather extraordinary that you would call on your childhood or the belief or the quote that 50% of Nillumbik is Christian. They're not, clearly. As the census says, half the people in Australia report no religion at all. So it's not only disrespectful, it's archaic. And really, as I say, a tiny little culture war that does not affect the rest of the Shire. And with all due respect to Reverend Tim, it's not about worshipping a male god anymore. We're past that. Let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. So we know when we elect the Mayor that they have a varied role, including being chair of the council meeting. And we do know that as part of that, if a councillor is away and there is a split vote, they do have to use their casting vote because we can't sit here at a tie. It's not like a football game where we get an extra 2 minutes or however it works. So this is nothing new. We voted our mayor in, who happens to be our chair. They have to make a second vote. We can't deny that. I've also met many reverends and priests and things, and other religious leaders, and they have come to council, and I have spoke to them over dinner, and I have enjoyed those conversations too. But I also enjoy meeting with community members of different clubs and groups and hearing what they're doing as well. I need to make sure that our community feels comfortable with our council meeting and the way it's run, and if having something that doesn't allow for inclusion in our council meetings, then we need to consider that, and that's where I'm sitting. I like to be involved with community on all levels of, all areas of our community, and I think we can still do that, but is council meeting the way that we do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy?
Thank you. Our community is made up of people of all ages, faiths and non-faiths. But I believe that all residents would agree truth, justice and equality are principles we collectively stand up for. How we live is very much at the heart of this matter. We just heard a flippant comment from Councillor Payne about our childhood trauma is not relevant here, which kind of sent me into a heart palpitations, which I still have. I went to a Catholic girls' school. Yes, I was teased. I came out of it pretty good. But when I look at religion and the damage that the religion does in the world and the good that it does in the world, there is a lot of trauma related to that. I seek that you refrain from ever trivialising childhood trauma and religion, again, Councillor Payne, because in my family, in my experience, there is a lot of childhood sexual abuse at the hands of the Catholic Church. It is something that I live with on a daily basis. I live with somebody who has nightmares most nights. The way you just trivialised religion and trivialised trauma is unacceptable. We are talking about a prayer as part of a meeting procedure to be able to help govern councillors, not in making a decision, but helping councillors make a decision that is considering of living life according to principles of faith, whether that faith be a Jewish faith, a Muslim faith, a Christian faith, or an atheist faith, if you can have it like that. We heard from the community saying, if we do continue to have a prayer, please make it inclusive of everyone. I stand by that. I want to be part of a community where we are inclusive and everybody's views are respected. When I first joined council, I thought that it was odd that there was a prayer at the beginning of the council meeting, as I saw council as a matter separate to that of the state and what council would be making decisions on. But this is not a question of religion. This prayer is a matter of helping councillors and council officers take a moment each meeting to think of what is the right thing to do when we make our decisions. In the same way that a code of conduct is a reminder of what is the right way to, what is the right way to behave. So I think that all of this discussion about is a prayer important or not overshadows the very essence of the very big decisions that we make here at council and the meeting procedures and being able to participate fully. I'm upset that it's taking such such attention, and I will be standing with keeping the prayer in our procedures, not because I'm at odds with the prayer,
Thank you,
but because I
Councillor
still
Duffy.
have a few seconds to finish this point.
Well,
Would that be possible,
You
Mayor?
have run out of time, Councillor Duffy.
Would it be possible to finish this point?
You've run out of time. I believe that's all councillors. I will speak briefly as well. I'll also have 3 minutes. Look, make no mistake, looking at point 2, requests that officers review council processes to allow for multi-faith prayer. Make no mistake, nothing is going to change. Every month we have the same religion in, every single time, and the perspective from the community is that we're being exclusive of other religions. And that will not change with this. We have failed to get different faiths in the past. Despite trying, it puts a huge burden on our governance officers who have to do that work to try to bring different faiths in. It's incredibly difficult to do, and this will not change that. All it will do is put extra burden on governance without changing what's actually happening. And the perception from the community who are watching is that we are excluding other religions. And that is the issue here. That's why this will not change anything if this amendment gets up. Councillor Duffy.
There is an ability to be able to include
Councillor
all
Duffy,
religions.
you are not to interject when someone else is speaking, be that the chair or any other councillor. Thank you. All right, I will continue. It does allow for different religions, but we already allow for different religions, and we do not get different religions. We get the same religion every time, and the perspective from the community is that we're being exclusive. It will not change. Councillor Perkins said that he wouldn't, if he wasn't religious, he wouldn't begrudge a prayer for his colleagues. And look, I don't begrudge someone praying for my colleagues either. But what I do begrudge is having to sit here awkwardly and become part of that. As someone who doesn't practice religion, I shouldn't have to be in the room when that, I shouldn't have to have that as part of the meeting that we are partaking in. And that's the issue here, having the prayer. It's that it's forcing other people to take part in a religion, be you an atheist or agnostic, being forced to take part in any religion, or somebody of a different religion being forced to take part in the same faith each month that is not your own faith. It does exclude people. It's an exclusive thing to have the prayer here in the chamber. Councillor Duffy suggested that it's a reminder of the right way to make decisions, but that's what we have the Good Governance Pledge for. And I don't think any of us as councillors should be reminded by a God about how to make decisions. We do that for the community who elected us, and that's our reminder. It's got nothing to do with religion. 90% of submitters in our consultation process said to get rid of the prayer. They were the ones who made the effort to submit, and they wanted it gone. If we don't have the integrity to listen to our community, then what are we doing as a council? When this is the community's meeting, we're meeting here for the community, and the community have told us how they want us to run our meetings, and we need to listen. 50.1% of residents on the census said they had no religion. And so that's 50.1% of people who would feel excluded by the absence of a prayer. All right. Thank you. I cut that one very fine. All right. I believe Councillor Perkins is entitled to a right of reply. No? Not for an amendment. Okay. So that amendment will now be put to the vote. Those in favour of the amendment? And those against?
Division.
Division, we haven't finished voting, but we'll do a division anyway. Those in favour of the amendment? Councillor Perkins, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Egan. Those against? Councillor Eyre, Councillor Payne, Councillor Ramcharan, which leaves me with the casting vote, something I never wanted to have to do, but there we go. And with the casting vote, I will support the officer's recommendation, and the amendment is defeated.
Sorry, you need to cast your vote.
The amendment is defeated by the casting vote. Sorry, I should have been clearer in how I said that. With the casting vote, I defeat the amendment.
So sorry, I called division too early.
You want to do another division, Councillor?
Well,
Perkins?
I want to ensure the casting vote is recorded in the minutes.
It is recorded in the minutes. Wonderful, thank you. Okay. Does Jeff now get a right of reply? No.
Oh, it's failed, so yes.
Yes, Councillor Payne, you do get a right of reply if you wish.
Just to respond to Councillor Duffy's accusations before, if you believe that the Catholic Church is responsible for such damage, would you invite them in to give a prayer for the council? I
don't think you're asking me a question. I don't think you can ask me a question about this.
okay.
I'm not talking to you about that, Jeff.
Councillor Duffy, you are entitled to raise a point of order if you wish.
I would like a point of order. I would like him to stop speaking and directing questions to me about this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy.
Okay.
If I can just confer with governance.
Happy to withdraw the remark.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. And
Happy to have it accepted. Thank you.
if you stick to the to debating
Absolutely.
the topic.
To stick to the debate, we've said, it has been said that the prayer is not about religion. The prayer is all about religion. That's the only thing it's about. That's why it's in the agenda. That's what we're having this argument for. And because we belong to a government that does not use a deity for making its decisions, we are wasting the prayer giver's time and our time by going through the motions. This is an internal culture war. That's what's happening tonight. The vast majority of the community don't know or care about the prayer. They simply want us to get on with the job and make the best decisions we can. That's what this vote is for.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I will put the motion now to the vote. I'll just wait for the slide to change over. The original motion, yes. So putting the original motion to the vote. Those in favour? And those against? And with the casting vote, I will vote in favour of that. So there is yet again a division. The motion is carried. And now Councillor Egan requests a division. So those in favour? Councillor Eyre, Councillor Payne, Councillor Ramcharan. Those against? Councillor Perkins, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Egan. And with the casting vote, Councillor Stockman is not present. That's his own decision. With the casting vote, I pass.
Which is why having the remote attendance is so
pass
important. That's good. That's the good thing
motion.
of what's happened tonight.
The remote attendance is probably a massive win from that decision, regardless of any other part of the meeting procedures. Thank you, everyone.
Which is why the rescission motion might prove useful.
Any councillor has the right to move a rescission motion, but if we do have a rescission motion, then there'll be no zooming into the next council meeting if anybody needs to. That's the way it works. All right. The next item is the glass collection service. So I'll look for a motion.
I believe that's me. I'll move that council does not commit to early introduction of curbside bin collection service for glass by the end of 2024, and that council continues to investigate the introduction of a separate glass collection service in Nillumbik, which considers the impacts of Victoria's container deposit scheme, legislative requirements, service options and design.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Payne. Councillor Perkins.
So there's been a little bit happening in terms of glass collection service and container deposit scheme. So we are going to, or the state government's going to introduce a container deposit scheme. I understand by the end of the year, about November. That's where we might see more and more potentially glass bottles, beer bottles, etc., returned back to either a kiosk or a place where they can be redeemed for 10 cents per item. We've also got, imminent in the next 3 or 4 years, the state government's legislated that all councils have to bring in a purple lidded bin for a glass collection service. So, as I understand it, the intent of that is to try to keep the glass separate, almost at the source or at the property, and that we're not mixing the glass and the cardboard together, and you can end up with some contamination of cardboard and other recyclables. So there was an option for council to bring in the glass collection service early. There was a little bit of money, I'm not sure if it says it in the report, that was available to encourage us to start the glass collection service early. But what it did in totality was really increase the costs for our ratepayers to have their waste management dealt with, or their waste dealt with. So I think that's spelt out in the report, dot points 11, 12 and 13. So it's estimated if the service were to be adopted early, that being next year, this would drive an additional cost increase of 8% to the overall service of the waste management service that we provide. This cost increase would be in addition to any increases to the cost of delivering the current service, which includes the rehabilitation of the former landfill site at Kangaroo Ground in compliance with statutory requirements. The current forecast increase to the existing service in 2024 would be 10%. So if we adopted the glass collection service early, we'd be increasing the waste management charge by 18%. In these difficult times for everybody, I think Council, hopefully if we follow this motion and previous briefings have indicated that we will, is that Council will not be an early adopter of the glass collection service, basically because the monies offered by the state government didn't come anywhere near the cost of introducing this service early, and it would be a large increase to the rate bill of every resident or every ratepayer of Nillumbik. So I have no doubt this will get support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Councillor Payne.
Yes, just to reiterate that while Nillumbik did go early for FOGO, its FOGO collection, we are looking for direction from the state government, a clear direction as to waste collection and infrastructure to support the circular economy. We look forward to that clear direction so we can make a decision about glass collection.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is endorsement of Recreational Trails Advisory Committee members for 2023 to 2025. I will look for a motion. Councillor Duffy?
Yes. The Council endorses the 11 applicants listed in Attachment 1 as committee members of the Recreational Trails Advisory Committee.
There are a few more points to that one, Councillor
And
Duffy.
the rest as per the papers. Is that acceptable?
That's fine, yeah, thank you. Wonderful. I'll look for a seconder.
Happy to second that.
Councillor Egan, Councillor Duffy.
I'd just like to thank the members of the Recreational Trails Advisory Committee for the work that they do. Thank the applicants who put forward their abilities and their interest in serving the community on this trail. There were a number of people. The committee only has 11 spots. Those people who officers deem to be the highest rating are the 11 that will be accepted. I encourage the others to continue with their community interest and maybe look at possibilities of getting involved in subcommittees for the Recreational Trails Advisory Committee or other ways that they can help the community.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Egan?
Thank you, Mayor. Being the past chair of this committee on both terms of council, I was really happy to see it back on the agenda and that we've got a new committee, and it was great to see so many apply for the positions. It's one area which is very inclusive, unlike other areas in council, and we have many different representatives from all sorts of groups in the Shire. We have horse riding, obviously, which is one of my passions. We have cycling, walking, tourism. There's a whole raft of different groups which you'll see there in the attachment. I actually, off the top of my head, can't remember the other two. But yeah, it's great to see that this has finally been sorted and we're back. It's only 4 meetings a year, but all of those members are constantly on all the different trails in different capacities, so they do everything from bringing issues to our notice to look at proposed policies, proposed trails, and ideas from the perspective of those particular user groups. So their input's really, really valuable in what we end up doing. So I'm really, really happy to see this back up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I'm really looking forward to this committee starting again. And I think having such a blend of user groups makes for better and stronger decisions and helps inform council. So I'm looking forward to hearing the names. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And those against? That is carried unanimously, and Councillor Duffy will read the names of the successful applicants.
Thank you. I had meant to acknowledge some of the people when I spoke before, but I missed that opportunity. The names of the applicants are, they've been successful, some familiar faces and some new ones. Andrew Bakos, Kath Giles, Rex Niven, Serena Marriott, Janice Davies, Bill Penrose, Brad March, Julia Conosima, Andrew McMahon, Andrew Chow and Bernie Broom. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. The next item is the draft municipal planning strategy consideration of adoption, and I'll look for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor
Councillor
Ramtran.
Payne.
Yes, I am happy to move the motion. One, that it notes the summary of feedback to Phase 3 engagement on the MPS and Clause 7402 as per Attachment 2. Instructs officers to make the summary available on Council's Participate Nillumbik page. 2, adopts the municipal planning strategy, the MPS, which is provided as per Attachment 4, with the following changes to be made prior to Council requesting authorisation of the Minister, as per point 5 below. A, amend all strategic plans in the MPS to include a label Bend of Islands. B, amend Clause 02.04-2, Faunal Habitat and Remnant Vegetation Plan 2. 1, identify a separate hatching on the plan defined in the legend that identifies the area as environmental living consistent with the purpose of the underlying zone. 2, include an identification in the legend for the thin purple lines on the plan as habitat link boundaries. 3, denote Watson's Creek as a priority tributary as identified in the Yarra Strategic Plan. 4, denote the Yarra Riverland as identified in the Yarra Strategic Plan, and I'm going to have a go at this, Burndap Birrarung, Burndap Umaku. And C, amend Clause 02.04-3, the Open Space and Recreation Facilities Plan, to show the local trail as existing only to Corwell Road on the western edge of the Green Habitat Link Reserve, and to identify the trail through the Green Habitat Link Reserve as proposed. And the point 5? 3 to 6. Okay. Adopts the amended clause 74.2. Further strategic work, which is provided as per attachment 6. Advises all submitters in writing of Council's decision. Requests the Minister for Planning under Section 8A of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 to authorise the preparation and exhibition of an amendment to the Nillumbik Shire Planning Scheme to insert the MPS and amend clause 74.2, and on receipt of that authorisation, place the amendment to the Nillumbik Planning Scheme on exhibition. I'm just checking to see if I've got all the points. There we go.
Bit of jumping around there, but spot on, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne.
Yes, just a quick thank you to Rosa Zazoulis and Lynn Orford of our planning team for coming up with the municipal planning strategy. It's a concise expression of the overarching policy directions of a municipality. It has a word limit of 5,000 words, and I'm pleased to say that ours has a word total of 4,996 words. So congratulations on hitting that word count button so often and coming up with something so well written. Thank them very much.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're almost at the end of a very long process, and this should see us through for the next 10 years. The current MPS is around 23 years old, so we certainly needed to update this. For those who find the process a little bit tricky or understand what happens next, we will, assuming it's adopted tonight, it will then go to the Minister for Planning, and once given permission, it will then go to another formal round of consultation. Once that's happened, then we can finally finish the process and adopt it. So, it's key points are our green wedge, it's conservation, it's protection and sustainability, and it's about who we are. It's our green wedge shire. So that's all in this MPS. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The The next item is, it takes me a long time to scroll through this, it's a very long report, but the next item is the Youth Hub Community Engagement Plan. I'll look for a motion. Councillor Perkins.
Thank you. I move that Council endorses the draft designs for the Nillumbik Youth Hub as per attachment 1 for the purposes of public consultation. 2, invites written submissions to the draft designs to Council by 20th of July 2023. And 3, considers public submissions at the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting to be held on the 8th of August this year.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Perkins.
Oh, thank you. Look, this is very exciting and things have moved really, really quickly. When I first got on council 13 years ago, this is one of the consistent themes that came through, that Diamond Creek needs a youth space. You know, indeed, the whole of Nillumbik needed a youth space. You know, so we're going to build a youth hub. You know, particularly Diamond Creek, I sort of thought we were a bit underdone in terms of somewhere for youth to go because there wasn't a library. I've been to Eltham. That's a great hangout for younger people. You know, particularly if they have to, you know, get out of home for whatever reason. There might be things going on at home. They can go to the library, and it's a safe, secure place to study or you know, catch up with friends. The only thing that exists in Diamond Creek has been traditionally McDonald's or the skate park. This certainly gives other options. We think about what a youth hub is. You know, some people think it's a cubby house. I think in the report, the youth hub requirements and considerations from September of last year describes fairly well in the executive summary what a youth hub is. So as of September last year, Nillumbik Shire Council has taken steps to better identify and cater for the increasingly complex needs of youth, and they're from 12 to 25 years old, as part of the Nillumbik Youth Strategy. In addressing the priorities of the Youth Strategy Council, we need to identify ways to improve youth access to service providers and their services. For example, mental health, complex case management. So it's not just about being a hangout place for kids to go and catch up with each other. It's also a place to get a range of services and access to providers in mental health, complex case management. This project has engaged youth, council staff and other councils and service providers to further understand the stakeholder requirements in addressing these complex needs. The research identified in September of last year identified that any solutions should look to improve the whole of engagement journey whilst providing a safe and enticing space that can support the delivery of impactful and accessible services. Building a dedicated youth hub will strongly support these priorities by, number 1, enabling service providers to deliver closer to those who need it. Number 2, providing safe and flexible spaces that cater to a wide range of youth needs. Number 3, saving on the cost and complexity of retrofitting an existing building to meet specific requirements. So this was September last year. Council at that stage didn't envisage that we were going to retrofit the Diamond Creek Senior City Centre to a youth hub. It then goes on to say that Nillumbik Shire Council should continue to work using GIS data and collaborating with property and planning teams to identify potential sites that can feed into the financial business case process. Preliminary findings indicate Eltham is the most suitable site for this youth hub, followed by Diamond Creek. This is based on the high number of young people residing in the area. And the last dot point is it's likely it will take some time for the youth hub that meets these complex needs to be built. Thus, there is an urgent need to complete both the analysis and approval process to ensure youth currently facing adversity can access the help they need. So from that point, we knew we had to find a youth hub. We were looking for a greenfield site. There weren't many available. We were looking at Eltham, of course. We're looking at Diamond Creek. And around about the same time, we're sort of finishing off an engagement process around the Diamond Creek Council Facilities Master Plan. And it was identified there that perhaps the youth hub could go into, you know, the existing Diamond Creek Community Centre or perhaps the senior sits. You know, it went out for community consultation. The feedback was, if we're going to put it in one of those two sites, it would be better to go in the Diamond Creek Senior Sits. So we got there. And then more recently, we had some really good news which really kicked it along. And, you know, very, very recently, Council was successful in receiving $300,000 under the Victorian Government's Youth Hubs Grant Program of 22-23. So that was a very recent announcement. That was, you know, met with excitement by all, because now we had $300,000 to actually retrofit an existing council building potentially. So, you know, the decision was made, let's go for it. Let's, you know, of course there's going to be some people that are dislocated from the Diamond Creek Senior Sits. There are a number of user groups there, but the needs of the youth outweigh those needs at this stage. So, you know, and officers have been working very closely with all those community groups to find them alternate accommodation. I mean, in Diamond Creek, we're not very far away. Council's also committed $300,000 to the build process. So retrofitting the hall, we've got $600,000. So it's not everything. The plans are here. It's a start. Council's also in our most recent budget budgeted for an extra staff member, $100,000 per annum, for 3 years. So this is an initial 3-year pilot program, and we've got $100,000 per year for 3 years. So significant investment by council. $400,000 in the first year, then $100,000 2 years after that for those 2 years. So it's very exciting. You'll probably get more out of this report and reading this and understanding what the Youth Hub project is about than you might see on the engagement portal.
Thank you,
But it's well worth reading the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm very excited to see our first Nillumbik Youth Hub come to this point. The design does look fantastic, but that is from my perspective, and I know I'm a little bit older than the youth category, and not by much, but I think that we need to certainly hear from as many community members as possible for that reason, especially from our young people, to make sure we get this right. And whilst it might look good on paper, it might not necessarily be what our young people want. The Nillumbik Youth Hub officers and key stakeholders will engage with young people in a setting that's safe and appropriate, and Councillor Perkins has already talked about that. It will focus on holistic wraparound support to young people by engaging a broad range of stakeholders, including our new youth worker, which is fantastic. And I think by having a safe place that's inviting will allow young people to come in and access services in a confidential manner, which is fantastic. And we know that those who are impacted by mental health aren't just saying I have mental health concerns. There's so many layers under that actually come out as mental health issues, whether it's social isolation, bullying, as we've heard earlier tonight, all different reasons, physical and things like that. So this will be a fantastic space for young people to come and have fun and meet other like-minded people and get the services that they need. So that's really all I need to say. I'm looking forward to seeing this progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy.
I think this is a great project. I'm very excited for the Youth Council, who have had this as one of the initiatives that they most wanted to see happen, and to be able to have money in the budget to be able to deliver this for them is a fabulous thing of showing that the Youth Council can achieve the outcomes that they set their hearts to. The engagement opens now. It's the middle of school holidays, so I really hope that the youth of the Shire can find out about this, and that particularly when they go back to school, that our connections with the local high schools and primary schools is able to help ensure that all kids know that this fabulous opportunity is coming and that they're able to participate in it. And I do note that council officers have got a planned series of ways of engaging with the community. But I would really just encourage young people to have a say. This is your chance to get involved with council, put in your submission, say what you want, and be brave and come along and speak at a council meeting when you have the opportunity to in August. Thank you to the officers that are involved in this project, and to the community for getting us this far, and to the state government for the money that they've tipped in to enable us to do what we're about to embark on.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is implications of the Bus Safety Act on Council's community bus programs, and I will look for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can stop coughing, I'd like to put up a recommendation that Council discontinues providing bus hire to non-accredited community groups. 2, continues to provide bus hire to community groups users who have their own accreditation. 3, requests officers to support and provide information to non-accredited community groups about other bus hire options that are available to them.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I'll look for a seconder.
Happy to
Councillor Payne.
second.
Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. This relates to a change in the Bus Safety Act 2009 by the state government, which came into effect March last year. And it's consolidating the existing bus operator accreditation and registration requirements into one single system. Under the previous system, council was the registered bus operator. However, it now means that we're automatically moved to being an accredited bus operator. What it means as far as the public goes is that for us to continue like we were before, it would cost us slightly more, but it's more about the risk to council. There's a lot of, if you read the actual officer's report, there's lots of, you'll see all the fine detail, but it's all about being accredited. A non-accreditation means that in a hire situation, the hirers would need to be covered under council's accreditation, and under the legislation must therefore comply with the same requirements that council's subject to. So if there was an issue, ultimately council would be responsible. So this is all about risk. I was initially concerned when I heard it because I thought it might impact a lot of the groups, but since COVID, the requests for the hiring of the bus is virtually nearly nil, I think. I'm pretty sure I asked that question at the time of Rosa and it was virtually nothing. So to continue, it would cost us more in terms of staff. And considering what the 2 bus crashes that we're all aware of recently, I think this is a great way to go. And as I said, it's all about OH&S and risk. And it's something that we don't need to be associated with. So I'm quite comfortable with voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Payne.
Just to reiterate what Councillor Egan said, the insurance and compliance have become incredibly hard, and this decision has been taken out of our hands. For us to fulfil this, we need to comply with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the Quarterly Risk and Safety Report for March 2023, and I'll look for a mover.
I can do
Councillor
that.
Eyre.
Thank you. That Council 1 notes the summary of the Confidential Risk and Safety Report in Attachment 1 for the quarter ending March 2023, and 2 resolves that the attached Risk and Safety Report Attachment 1 remains confidential in accordance with Section 3(1)(a) and F of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Perkins. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. This is a report that's for us to note. It's come via our Audit and Risk Committee, who has independent committee members on there as well. They have reviewed it. But really, this is around Council's commitment to risk management outlined in our risk management policy, ensuring that all risks that could affect the achievement of Council's goals, strategies and actions are identified, assessed and treated. I think that's really all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry. I forgot to mention that there are some dates on page 47 of the tables. Whilst the dates are incorrect on the last 2 columns, the actual details are correct. Thank you. The
Councillor,
actual statistics are correct. Thanks.
Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the Audit and Risk Committee meeting June 2023. I'll look for a motion. Councillor
Happy to
Payne.
move that motion, Mayor Ramcharan, that the Council notes the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 5th of June 2023 as per Attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Perkins. Councillor Payne.
Nothing much to add to this, except that this is the ongoing Audit and Risk Committee meeting. A few items of interest are the fair access policy. We'll be discussing how that is implemented very shortly. The Child Safe Standards Internal Audit Report and the Fraud and Corruption Control Policy. We are making sure that we run this a squeaky clean organisation. That's what this is all about.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the tender report for contract 2223016 infringement and parking enforcement services and products, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Perkins.
So I'll move the officer recommendation as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. I'll look for a seconder.
Happy to second.
Councillor Payne. Councillor Perkins.
So this is a tender evaluation report. Officers have gone out and sought tender responses for infringement and parking enforcement. Basically, it relates primarily to expanding the existing parker sensor coverage and to upgrade technology to enabling parking assistance enforcement and data collection, as well as improve safety and efficiency. It's also expected to inform enhanced parking management by collection and use of data. The solution also has the capability of issuing infringements other than parking-related infringements, and includes, but it's not limited to, local laws and animal management. So what it means is it brings Nillumbik in line with most other urban areas and municipalities where parking and parking illegally, particularly, is always a problem. You know, so particularly where we've got train stations, we have people parking in the car parks of our local businesses. They jump on the train, they come back 10 hours later, and our current system for enforcing our parking restrictions is fairly antiquated. You know, it's not far off the old grey ghost running around with a piece of chalk and marking tyres. We've got a limited number of sensors that makes that whole process a lot more efficient. We're looking to expand that number of sensors. So in the short term, we might see an increase in fines, we might see a slight increase in revenue, but over time, I'm sure that will level off, because we'll actually see more compliance. We'll see people having a look at what the parking restrictions are in Nillumbik and abiding by them. And that's what we want. If it's a 2-hour parking area, we want you to move on within 2 hours, so those businesses can get another customer parking at their front door. We don't want local businesses parking, or their staff or employees parking in car parks that should be reserved for the customers. You know, the employees should be parked remote from their workplace. You know, get public transport or walk or whatever you need to do. But it's more important for the businesses that these employees of businesses aren't taking up those prime positions. You know, I sit in Shute Street all the time. They've had parking sensors in Shute Street. It's actually the local businesses that want these sensors put in more often than not. It's the local traders association or the Chamber of Commerce that actually want the parking scheme enforced. You know, they don't run around and tell everyone that, but that is the situation. Quite often, if there's changes to the parking rules or infringement in an area, it's as a direct result of lobbying by the local businesses. So, you know, parking and enforcement of parking is there to support the local businesses. You know, and all people need to do is do what they would do in the city of Melbourne or Banyule or any other municipality, and don't overstay your welcome in terms of a car park. You know, you risk being fined. The system now into the future will be more and more efficient. There's more chance of getting fined if you are parking illegally. Now, people just have to, you know, accept that. And I certainly don't park illegally anywhere, but if I did do it in Nillumbik at the moment, I'd probably get away with it. And that doesn't mean that that's going to continue forever. We actually do need to support our local businesses and you know, get people to move on and not be parking in those prime car parks where they jump on the train and go into the city for the day, which has historically been a real problem. As the report sort of said, it also has the capability of issuing infringements for other non-parking related matters. It could be, it's not limited to local laws and animal management. So yeah, if the motion gets up, I'll be able to announce the successful tenderer, I believe. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I thought it was very important to ask questions about this contract as to whether it was going to impact on officers' employment, and I've been given an assurance that this is not something that would look to council reducing the number of people that work in the related area of this parking services. The other thing that I thought was important here was also to clarify where these additional sensors are going to go to ensure that the community is not in a negatively way impacted by sensors being put in places where we know we have parking issues. So I've been given assurance that this is in the major activity centres, not in places like around Eltham High School or around the Eltham North reserve, where Redbat soccer and cricket area gets very congested, and we know that we've got parking issues that we need to work on. So having been given those assurances, I felt comfortable in supporting the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? Councillor Perkins?
Just through the officers, can I just ask a question for clarification? I just, even though there might not be sensors being put around areas where Councillor Duffy suggests there's parking issues, if people are parking illegally, could they still expect to be fined, but just not using the sensors?
Through the chair, if officers have been made aware, we do regular enforcement and patrols, but primarily we do enforce the local law. So illegal parking generally, if an officer is present and sees it, we'll go through that process.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because there aren't any sensors in an area doesn't mean it's a free-for-all.
No, you're right. They need to apply by the law.
Thank you for that clarification. All right. Are there any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the Fair Access Policy, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Duffy.
I'm happy to do that. The recommendation is that council endorses the proposed Nillumbik Shire Council Fair Access Policy.
We will, my mistake, Councillor Duffy, we will just jump backwards because we did need to name the successful tenderer. So Councillor Perkins will announce the preferred tenderer, which is on the screen.
There is a successful tender is DCA Holdings Proprietary Limited. The schedule of rates disclosed in attachment 1. We don't talk about the schedule of rates. Oh, okay, all the contract cost. Oh, okay, fair enough, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Perkins. And Councillor Duffy, back to you. I'll let you move that again.
Thank you. So the recommendation regarding Fair Access Policy is that council endorses the proposed Nillumbik Shire Council Fair Access Policy.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I've just written a few words to keep me on track here. It's pleasing to see Nillumbik Shire Council develop a fair access policy to support equitable access to and use of community sports infrastructure in our shire. The purpose of this policy, as stated, is seeking to address known barriers experienced by women, girls and gender diverse people in accessing and using community sports infrastructure. The policy aims to progressively build capacity and capabilities of Nillumbik Shire Council in the identification and elimination of systemic causes of gender inequality in policy, programs, communication and delivery of services in relation to community sports infrastructure. So Council commits to undertaking the necessary and proportionate steps to implement this fair access policy. Much is known about the barriers and imbalances for girls and women that they face in general and in sport, so I won't go into detail. But what I would like to do is shout out to our sports clubs in Edendale Ward, creating change locally, and especially those where women have stepped up to lead the charge. Gabby Montanese is the Chief Operating Officer at Eltham Redbacks Football Club, our local soccer club. Jodie Mitchell is the President of Eltham North Junior Football Club, the Panthers, and Maren Daff is the President of the Eltham Tennis Club. These women are hardworking, along with their executive committees, to facilitate places of respect, belonging, development and participation at all levels: players, volunteers, coaches, referees, executive committees and family inclusion. As a local councillor, I seek to support these extremely capable women and their clubs in their vision. Often women and girls are placed second in sports club culture. That is changing, and council needs to be proactive in assisting with that, and we are. On the weekend, I saw the joy of the under-16 Eltham Girls junior AFL football team when they played a game on Central Eltham Oval. For most girls, this was their first time of playing a game on the main pitch. For some girls, it was their third time in 7 years of participation. Girls of all sports are acutely aware that scheduling of games at premier grounds regularly favours the boys, not the girls. I'd like to see girls put on an equal par in everything that happens in the Shire. Recently, council installed new LED lights at the Diamond Hills Reserve Oval, which is great, but the change facilities at this ground neither serve men nor women well. Through this fair access policy, I'm confident that council can audit needs across the Shire to achieve a fairer outcome for all. To everyone involved in sport, please continue, and to those who feel that you are unable to participate, please reach out to share with us what's impeding you so we can work to address that.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Eyre?
Thank you, Mayor. So this reform agenda includes addressing the traditional structures and a way community sport and rec organisations operate through the implementation of all 9 recommendations from the 2015 inquiry into women and girls in sport and active recreation. The 3 key pillars of success that will assist us in planning and implementation is the fair access principles, which comprise of 6: inclusivity, full participation, equal representation, encouraging, supporting and prioritising music groups committed to equality. And the fair access policy addresses known barriers, accessing and using community sports infrastructure, and it's a tool to assist council to record specific, measurable and timely goals in line with each of the fair access principles. And I think this is fantastic, as Councillor Duffy has mentioned all of the other points to supporting women and girls in our community. So I'm looking forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the proposed community consultation for 2 Bell Street, Eltham, which is Fabros Fields, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the recommendation that Council 1 endorses the commencement of community consultation process as outlined in proposed community engagement next steps, attachment 1, to seek the views of the Nillumbik community with respect to the potential use of land at 2 Bell Street, Eltham for the purpose of an urban farm. And 2, following the conclusion of the community engagement period, hears from submitters at the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting on the 8th of August 2023 with respect to the potential use of land at 2 Bell Street, Eltham for the purpose of an urban farm.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre?
I will, just so I can hear the debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne?
Yes, so I think an alternative motion has been put up, which is a copy of Henry Hasler's very good questions about the Fabros Field proposal. Simply to remind everyone that this is not a master plan proposal from council. This is Local Food Connect have come to council to say we would like to lease land at Fabros Field for the purpose of an urban farm. To do that, we have a number of entities that we have to approach: the land owner, which is the state government, the land manager, which is the council, and the land users, which of course are the community. So before we can actually go to the full process of saying this is what the proposal would be, we have to ask the community, can we lease the land? And we are asking them, can we lease the land for an urban farm? So while the questions are important to ask, I think the idea is that we simply go to the community to get their views on the idea of an urban farm at Fabros Field. This does not give the go-ahead to the project at all. This is simply going to the community to make sure that we have fulfilled our statutory obligation for community consultation. And this was not an initiation of council, as I say. This is Local Food Connect wishing to lease land to grow food. And that's the reason for going out to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre?
Thank you. Yes, so as we know, not much information has been supplied to us to make an informed decision, which makes it quite tricky. But as I understand it, the consultation will be yes, I support this, and no, I don't support this in this location, and an opportunity to provide further feedback. But there have been quite a few community members who have come to me asking for more information, because how can you say yes or no if you don't really feel you have enough information to even say yes or no? I also know that, is this the chicken and the egg, in that which came first? Do you get a grant and then follow the process, or do you follow the process and then once you have all the information apply for the grant? So it's the chicken or the egg in this for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy?
I would like to foreshadow an alternate motion,
Of course.
and that was emailed through to you, Mayor, and I'm happy to read that out. I'm not quite sure of the process of when I do that, or if there is a seconder for that.
It's up to you how you use your 3 minutes.
Yep.
So I would advise your best use of the 3 minutes is give a summary of the motion and speak to why you would support your motion over this one.
Yep, thank you. The summary of the motion that I'm putting forward is based on not having enough detail to be able to know what is going out for community consultation. I think it's very hard to ask the community to say yes or no to something when there are so many details that are not available. This land is community open space, and it could effectively be cut down to not being available to be used as the community open space for the various purposes that it's currently enjoyed by the community. So shall I state the resolution now? Is that appropriate?
If you wish.
Yep. So the alternate is that 1, council notes the interest of Local Food Connect to establish a community farm at the site known as Fabro Fields. 2, invites Local Food Connect to submit a detailed formal proposal for public distribution that incorporates specific information on the proposal, including a number of points, which I'm happy to go into in more detail. And thirdly, that council postpones any public consultation on the community farm proposal until a more detailed proposal addressing the items 2A to G have been provided to the officers. So if you'd like me to go into those, I'm very happy to, if there's time.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. You still have 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Yep,
You can use
okay.
it however you wish.
So these areas are that the area of land that's proposed to be given over to the proposed farm, more information on the management structure of the proposed farm and how key personnel will be chosen, resourcing proposed for the project, including a differentiation between setup and ongoing costs, including for staffing, a 5-year budget for the project indicating the expected sources of all funding required, the provision of ancillary facilities to serve the project, including specifically the water supply, parking and toilets, any insurance details, especially given at least some of the land is in a flood zone, details of how this proposal competes with or complements other council facilities such as Edendale Farm and the established farmers market store holders and independent greengrocer outlets and those that are selling organic produce in the Shire. Also, lastly, the details of the costs and the responsibilities for remediation of the site should the proposed farm be unsustainable. I'd be looking to find out who would be bearing the costs of returning it to the way that it is now. So in essence, that's the alternate motion that I would be seeking to put forward if somebody was to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors?
No, I've got a question.
Quick question from Councillor Eyre.
Yes, through the chair. I was listening, but I need to see that visually to understand what you're putting forward. But are some of the things that Councillor Duffy, I didn't see that email, I've lost my train of thought. some of the things that have been put in Councillor Duffy's motion, is that when we get to the master planning stage, or can these things be done without doing that? I don't know if that's an
I
appropriate
think that's
question.
probably a question through the chair to Rosa.
Not working. Through the chair, that's it. We don't have a recent or updated version of a master plan. In lieu of that master planning process, we're proposing the community consultation be undertaken to answer whether the use is a use that the community would find acceptable on this parcel of land. Yes or no? The detail that Councillor Duffy has expressed to see would come as part of the planning permit application process and also be part of the consideration through the lease licensing process. So that's information that we would need to be, or council would need to be satisfied that it meets, I suppose, its concerns and objectives for the land moving forward, but that doesn't form the basis upon which the community should indicate whether they feel comfortable having a use there or not. If that makes sense, hopefully. So essentially the information that is being sought is information that will be provided to council in later statutory phases that are to come. But at this point in time, the information that we're seeking to achieve through the community consultation will assist council to make a decision as to whether you will give written consent to LFC to apply for a planning permit application. And that's the decision that you need to make. And in order for you to be able to make that decision, from what I understand, councillors are seeking to understand whether the community would support that use.
Thank you, Rosa. Councillor Perkins.
Look, this one has been bubbling around quite a long time. I was on council when Nillumbik first received the land. It was Crown land, and it was the management of the land was given to council by the state government. It was met with lots of excitement, being so close to the centre of Eltham. Great piece of land. Everyone was very excited about it. There were lots of plans for the land, including basketball stadium. I think the school across the road wanted a basketball stadium. Lots of other ideas. Went through a master plan process. Effectively, my recollection of the master plan was basically keep it public open space, and put a path around it. I haven't seen the master plan for a number of years, but that's what I thought it was. Public open space with a path around the outside. We've got Local Food Connect that have wanted to put an urban farm on this land. Different to a community farm. We've got a community farm in Diamond Creek where every man and his dog can go there if they want. It's still sort of public open space to that extent. It's not fenced off. An urban farm might be something quite different. I'm yet to be decided either way on whether or not I support Local Food Connect's application. I don't oppose it in principle. I sort of think the initial problem they had was funding. I'm thinking it's going to be very, very hard to get funding out of council for the project. They've ticked that box. They've got the funding from the state government. They've gone elsewhere. Now they need our permission to lease the land off council and then go through the planning approvals process. So there's still a number of steps to come. But look, if I know the people of Eltham, I don't imagine that this is going to be necessarily the greatest idea they've ever come up with, or the Local Food Connect's ever come up with. The open space is quite important to the people of Eltham. I would say I'll sit back and watch this process, but we might well get a number of objections suggesting to council that through the submissions that community might not want this to go ahead as an urban farm. But that's my best guesstimate. It's a bit like when council proposed to sell some land a few years ago. I knew how that was going to shape out. This might be the same sort of thing, but this isn't council's proposal at this stage. This is something that Local Food Connect have sought and received state government grant funding for. That really does push this to the top of the priority list in terms of we need to determine whether or not we're going to allow them to put an urban farm on this land or not. And to help guide our decision, we will go to the community and see what they say, and then go from there. And then if council's decision is to proceed down the track that Local Food Connect want, there's a whole heap of other challenges, barriers to overcome in terms of leasing arrangements and the planning approval process and what restrictions there might be on the land, you know, and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of work to come, but
Thank you.
endorse the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? I will speak briefly on that one as well. Look, I really do love the idea of an urban farm, but is it appropriate on this site? Is it the right thing for the Eltham community? You know, how is it going to be used? What's it going to look like? There are a lot of unanswered questions. We have discussed this at length about how to proceed, and it's very difficult to know exactly the right way to do it. I think Councillor Ayres' comment about the chicken or the egg was quite apt. It really is a chicken and an egg situation. Do you go out once you've got all the details, or do you go out with a high level ask before you go to a huge amount of effort and expense to put those details together? And I think that's why this motion is the way to go for now. It's a high level ask. It's, you know, would you support it? If you're going to, you know, there'll be a comments section, so I encourage people to write in there. If you are going to support it, well, you know, what sort of conditions might you want on that? You know, do you think it needs to be a certain size, or do you think it needs to operate a certain way? So there'll be the opportunity for submitters to give that kind of information. There'll be, you know, an open text field, write whatever your thoughts are. But at this stage, we don't have the details. And if we push ahead and put those details together and then go to a consultation process only to find out it's not what the community want, then we've wasted a heck of a lot of time and money. Now, we will need to consult again. We may find out down the track that we may do all the work to put those details together and find out down the track that it's not what the community wants. But it's important to do a pulse check first, and that's all this is. It's a pulse check before we go down that path. And there will be another opportunity for consultation once we have the details. If we hear from the community that this farm is absolutely out of the question, they don't want it, if that's what we hear from our community, I'm sure councillors will listen to that and the process won't proceed any further. If we hear from the community that they support it based on, you know, certain conditions, certain design features, whatever, then we may push ahead, get that detailed work together, and then go to another round of consultation. But at this stage, we have had to make the tough decision about what comes first, and this is where we've ended up. So we'll see if the motion gets up. If it doesn't, then maybe we will go down a different path. But having had the conversations internally so far, and having been briefed on the process, I do believe that this is the best way to go, even though it is far from ideal. And so I will put the motion to the vote. Councillor Duffy, is that a question?
Yeah, just a question. So I have two questions. One is about the process. So if this proceeds, is it through the planning process that people will be able to give their feedback?
There is no planning process underway right now. If this motion gets up, then it will just be a normal community consultation process.
A participate in the Olympic process.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering that question.
With the motion that you have got there, it would likely end up being a planning process that would be the consultation. That's not the motion that you had foreshadowed, but that would be a possible way that could. Rosa?
Through the chair. So there will be two. If the motion gets up and we do consultation, the feedback comes back to council. Council then decides to press on with the planning permit application process plus the lease licence process. There are another 2 rounds of consultation that need to be undertaken for each of those 2 processes, and that'll have all the necessary information for people to comment on traffic, conditions of the lease, anything. So it'll all be there for those 2 statutory processes in the future.
Thank you for clarifying that, Rosa. So this one is just a regular one. There will be statutory ones down the track.
So the second step would be that would not go through participate Nillumbik, that would just go through the normal planning process.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And the final question was just about the motion that I put forward. Is that still on the table if there's a seconder?
If this motion succeeds, then your motion can't be moved. If this motion fails, then you will have an opportunity to move your foreshadowed motion.
Thank you.
All right, I will put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And those against? And that is carried. The next item is...
Just a
Councillor Duffy?
Just a question. So, with the item that happened earlier in the night, that was the new meeting procedures, does that mean that we don't need to call for divisions and things during this meeting, or do I need to do that?
They
for
haven't
this?
been implemented yet.
So could I just put a
you want to
division
call
up
for a
for that?
division.
Thank you.
All right, there was a division called. Those in favour? Councillor Perkins, Councillor Eyre, Councillor Payne, Councillor Ramcharan, Councillor Egan. Those against? Councillor Duffy. The next item is the informal meetings of councillors' records, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. The Council, in accordance with item 19 of Council's Governance Rule, meeting procedure, receives the informal meetings of councillors' records in attachment 1 for the meetings held.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Payne, Councillor Eyre.
No, thank you.
Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. We have no notices of motion, but we do have a couple of delegates' reports. The first, I believe, Councillor Duffy has submitted one. So, Councillor Duffy, I'll let you go first.
Thank you. I submitted a report that was in the papers. I won't go through it in its entirety, but I will read some of it out. During National Reconciliation Week on Sunday the 28th of May, Nillumbik Reconciliation Group held a free community event to celebrate 25 years of reconciliation in Nillumbik. The Wurundjeri Woiwurrung elder Ian Hunter started the event with a welcome to country and concluded it with a smoking ceremony. Ian was involved in the original event 25 years ago and instructed the removal of bark from a tree to create a coolamon at the time. Nillumbik Shire Council treasures this artefact in its art collection and enabled the coolamon to be displayed and used at the event. Wurundjeri women's dance group Jiri Jiri performed cultural dances to songs sung by Mandy Nicholson in Woiwurrung language. Mandy shared stories and reflected on the meaningful and personal connection to her to be involved in this celebration, as her late father was present at the original event. Yorta Yorta singer-songwriter Scott Darlow entertained us with his music, the didgeridoo and powerful words. Local choir The Chocolate Lilies sang, and the Eltham High School Symphonic Band composed and performed a moving tribute piece as they'd done 25 years ago. The celebration was held at the Eltham Community Reception Centre and was attended by 300 people, including Kate Thwaites, Vicky Ward, Cindy McLeish as our local, state and federal representatives. And then from council was Mayor Ben Ramcharan, Deputy Mayor Jeff Payne and Councillor Francis Eyre and myself. We were joined by past councillors Margaret Jennings, John Graves, Warwick Leeson, Greg Johnson, Helen Coleman, Bill Penrose, along with past NRG President Carol Leeson. We heard from Jan McKenzie, the current president of NRG, and Jan Aiken, the past president of NRG, that the Shire was to commemorate the Nillumbik Shire Council's, that this event was to commemorate Nillumbik Shire Council's first reconciliation ceremony, the Shire's progressive journey at the time and since then. We also heard that the Nillumbik Shire created an advisory committee to arrange the 1998 ceremony promoting reconciliation. This advisory committee then became the Nillumbik Reconciliation Group. So our advisory groups can become powerful community groups in their own right, which is exciting. The original ceremony included locals, 1,000 of them, walking along Main Street, Eltham into Wingrove Park, and the Mayor of the time, Robert Marshall, read out statements of recognition, apology, acknowledgement and commitment to Wurundjeri Woiwurrung elders, and presented this letter of commitment to the elders. The Wurundjeri elders spoke of the importance of this action for the time. It was quite progressive 25 years ago. There were other people that spoke at the event. I won't go into a lot of detail about that because I'm running out of time, but I would like to
If
say
you could just
thank
wrap it
you
up.
to the Reconciliation Group for all that they have done and continue to do, and thank you to Council for their involvement in supporting the event.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. All right, we've got a couple more, I believe. Councillor
With the
Perkins has
indulgence
one.
of the chair, could I just ask a question of the officers?
Of course.
The delegates report, does that form part of the minutes? Is that becomes a record? With your indulgence, I just wonder if Councillor Duffy could make a slight amendment. We note that there was an OAM mentioned. A good friend of mine, Warwick Leeson, also an OAM.
Oh yes,
as
that was
opposed-
an error at the time I
so
submitted
could we
that.
include the
That'd be
OAM? 'Cause
fabulous if we could
Warwick's
do that.
also the president of Diamond Creek Rotary, and he's pictured here. He's very modest and wouldn't like to seek recognition, but we know that he likes OAM after his name. So I think if we can include that in the minutes as a little nod to Warwick.
Thank you,
or
Councillor
was up.
Perkins. That's great. I made that mistake. No. That
All
would
right.
be great to include that.
Thank you for pointing that out, Councillor Perkins. Did you want to read your delegates report?
No, look, I won't, but I did attend the Rotary Club of Diamond Creek handover dinner recently, and Warwick Leeson is now the president of Diamond Creek Rotary, a well-attended function, and the report details all the great work that Rotary have done in the Diamond Creek area, and I look forward to Warwick's ongoing support over the next 12 months and beyond.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. I believe there is one more delegates report. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mayor Altran. Just to explain that 4 of us, I do apologise, went to Canberra this year for the National General Assembly in Canberra, June 14 to Thursday, June 15. In addition, ALGA ran a regional forum on the 13th to engage with councils in regional, rural and remote areas. On Friday the 16th, following the NGA, ALGA delegates participated in the Australian Council of Local Government for the first time since 2008. It's been recently reinstated by the federal government. There was strong commitment from the government to partner with local governments in the interest of our communities. The Prime Minister announced a $100 million energy upgrade fund, co-funding councils to upgrade community facilities. In addition, also announced a $200 million Thriving Suburbs program, which will support councils to deliver infrastructure and community projects. Nillumbik submitted 4 advocacy motions for consideration by ALGA at the NGA relating to regional assessment services for aged care, improved infrastructure to combat climate emergency, support for councils in protecting biodiversity and green wedges, and funding for dedicated youth spaces. All 4 motions passed unopposed, a testament to their importance and relevance to the local government sector across the country. In addition, a number of significant motions from other councils were supported by the NGA, including a motion to note the importance of Australia's upcoming Voice to Parliament referendum, and that just got through. That was a very, very tight vote. We met with 4 ministers in Canberra: the Minister for Aged Care, Annika Wells, the Minister for Youth, Anne Ally, Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government, or I should say her assistant, Catherine King, and the Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories, Christy McBain. Our discussions related to the motions raised by Nillumbik at the NGA, as well as opportunities for Nillumbik under the Energy Upgrade Fund and Thriving Suburbs program. I'd also like to thank Alex Collum, who is in the gallery. He was the chief gatekeeper, tour guide and Pied Piper that led a very excited bunch of councillors around Parliament House, and I thank him very much.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. All right. So that is it, unless there are any other delegates' reports that someone wants to surprise me with. There is no supplementary or urgent business. We do have a confidential report, so I will look for someone to move that we move into confidential.
I put up a recommendation that we move into confidential, please?
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Seconded, Councillor Eyre. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you to everyone in attendance tonight. I will see you later.